It was a rainy night, and I heard the other dude on my beat get dispatched to a well-being check of a woman. And after a couple minutes, the guy asks for a supervisor, and they dispatch me to the lady's house. When I get there, the supervisor asks me to climb in through a window at the back of the house, because I'm of a smaller stature. When I got to the window, I could hear a loud TV in another room. It was a movie, and I think it was Nightmare on Elm Street. As I climbed in through the window, I yelled out, "Police, does anybody need help?" And then the terror began. I heard a woman's voice calling, "Here, I'm here." So I run out of the bedroom down the stairs, where I heard the voice calling me from. I get in the living room, and immediately I see a lady laying face down in the carpet. So I called her out, "Ma'am, did you fall? Are you hurt?" I run to her and she is not moving at all. And as I touched her, her hand and arms was ice cold. She was dead, man. And for a few days, I unlocked the front door and let the supervisor and other officer in. I told them I heard a voice calling and that we needed to check the whole house, but no one else was in there. And the TV was on the horror movie, which created a more sinister vibe to it all. Suddenly, the voice came back. It just let out a simple, "Hey!" We jumped, raising our guns instantly. "Who the fuck is there?" My coworker buddy screamed. At first the voice sounded like a female or maybe a boy. I stood frozen and my mind raced, trying to reconcile the impossibility of it all. There was no one else there, just the lifeless body of the woman who had been there for days. My partner and the supervisor exchanged uneasy glances, clearly as shaken as I was. "Check the house again," the supervisor ordered, with his voice trembling slightly. I led the way, moving cautiously through the dimly lit hallway, every shadow seeming to shift and stretch in the flickering light from the TV. We cleared each room methodically, checking closets, under beds, anywhere someone could hide. But nothing. Just an unsettling silence punctuated by the occasional drip of rainwater leaking from the roof. We regrouped in the living room, and I found myself staring at the woman's body, her face still turned away from us, her arm outstretched as if reaching for something. My skin prickled with unease. A sense of something profoundly wrong was filling the air. Could it be a recording? I suggested. "Well, maybe," my buddy replied, though his tone lacked conviction. "But why would someone set that up? And what the hell is making it play now?" I said, before anyone could respond. The voice came again, softer this time, almost pleading. "Please help me." I felt my blood run cold. It was the exact same voice, the same pitch and tone as before. Our hands tightened around the grip of our guns, and I took a step back, glancing at my partner and the supervisor. They looked as unnerved as me. "There's got to be an explanation," the supervisor muttered. "Let's get out of here, we're in danger," my buddy said, trying to keep us out of trouble. "That woman's dead, and there's nothing more we can do." We agreed, but as we moved toward the front door, it slammed shut with a bang. We all jumped, spinning around with our guns raised. There was no one there. The door was solid and unmoving, as if it had never been opened in the first place. "Jesus Christ, man," my friend whispered with a pale face. The TV switched off suddenly, plunging the room into near total darkness. Only the faint glow of the streetlights outside offered any illumination. And then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw movement. The woman's hand, her pointer finger was twitching a little. I blinked, thinking it must be a trick of the light, but there it was again. A slight, almost imperceptible movement of her fingers, and they saw it too at this point. We stepped closer without hearts hammering in our chests, unable to tear my eyes away from her hand, and we called the ambulance. And then her mouth moved. It opened just a little bit, but we saw it. "Holy shit, man, what the hell was that?" I said, and then I stumbled back, nearly tripping over my own feet. "Let's go," "We need to get out," I shouted with my voice kinda muffled. That house felt like it was a goddamn scene of a horror movie. It was surreal. What the hell had turned the TV off? And that voice, man, we still couldn't understand it. It was almost like it was something mocking and taunting us. The supervisor grabbed our arms and yanked us toward the door. "Let's go, guys. We out," he screamed, and we bolted, not looking back, not stopping until we were outside, drenched in the cold rain. The house loomed behind us, silent now, but the horror lingered. We called for backup, reported what we found or what we thought we found, but none of us could explain what had happened. The official report would later say the woman died of natural causes, but man, I honestly don't know. We'd all heard it, seen it, felt it. Something in that house was 100% wrong, something beyond our understanding. I actually couldn't sleep for days after that. That voice, dude, the woman rolling her eyes and moving her finger, it felt like it had something behind it. We kinda avoided speaking about it at first. And one thing is for sure, we will never fully recover from that experience. Hey, ex-police officer here, and this is about the call that made me know that law enforcement isn't for me. One night, I conducted a no-knock search warrant on a drug house. I was the third officer to come in, and of course the suspect ran. I chased him upstairs and down a hallway. He ran in a room at the end of the hallway and shut the door. I kicked the door open with adrenaline surging through my veins as I stepped into the room. The suspect was nowhere in sight. The room was small, just a simple bedroom with a bed pushed up against the wall, a dresser with a cracked mirror on top, and a single window. The window was closed, but the curtains fluttered slightly, as if someone had just passed through. I moved quickly to the window, expecting to see him climbing down the fire escape or dropping to the ground below. But when I pulled back the curtains, the fire escape was empty. There was no sign of him outside, no sound of footsteps or anyone running away, just the sound of the city in the distance. Turning back to the room, I felt a strange unease settle in my gut. It didn't make sense. Where in the hell did he go? I did a quick sweep of the room, checking everything again. Under the bed, closet, and even behind the dresser. Nothing, as if he had vanished into thin air. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I wasn't one to spook easily, but something about this situation felt off. I called out to the other officers, letting them know the room was clear, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. As I stood there, I heard a faint sound, almost like a whisper, coming from behind me. I spun around, my heart pounding, but the room was empty, and the whispering continued. It sounded like it was coming from the walls, man, the very air around me. I pressed my ear against the wall, trying to make out the words, but they were indistinguishable, just a low murmur that sent chills down my spine. The voice was almost familiar, like someone I had known a long time ago, but I couldn't place it. Suddenly, the whispering stopped and the room was silent again. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. Maybe I was just imagining things, my mind playing tricks on me after a long day. But deep down I knew it was something more. I reached for my radio to call in what had happened. But before I could, the door slammed shut with a force that shook the room. I rushed to it, yanking on the handle, but it wouldn't budge. It was as if someone or something was holding it closed from the other side. I felt like the most goddamn unlucky person in the world. Panic set in and I banged on the door, shouting for help, but the other officers were already moving through the rest of the house, downstairs, their footsteps growing fainter as they checked each room. I was alone. Then I heard it again, the whispering this time filling the room. The temperature dropped, and I could see my breath in front of me. The voice was clearer now, and then I heard something I'll never be able to forget. "Why did you come here?" It asked with a cold and accusing tone. You really shouldn't have come here. I backed away from the door. Never felt my heart race like that before. There was no one else in the room. My eyes darted around, looking for anything that could explain what was happening, but there was just nothing. Suddenly, the bed started to shake, as the frame rattling violently against the floor. The dresser's mirror cracked even more, and I swear to God that I felt a force literally push against me from my back, shoving me towards the window. I heard the whispering turned into a low, guttural kind of growl. I felt like there was a suffocating presence in the air. I couldn't see, but I could feel pressing down on me. I tried to fight it, to push back against whatever was happening, but my body wouldn't respond. My legs buckled, and I collapsed to the floor, my hands clutching at my chest as I struggled to breathe. The growling grew louder, almost deafening, and I knew I had to get out of there. Suddenly, I hear the other officers calling me from outside, so I went to the door and screamed, "I'm here! I'm stuck!" They forced the door, and with their help, the door bursted open and I finally got outside. There were other officers downstairs. With my body trembling, I made my way down the stairs, and I didn't even look back at the room. I couldn't. Whatever had happened up there, I didn't want any part of it anymore. I met up with the team, trying to compose myself, but I must have looked scared as shit because one of the guys asked if I was okay with concern on his face. I nodded, forcing a weak smile, but I was still freaked out, still feeling the lingering presence from that room. We finished the search, and we never found the suspect, as if he simply disappeared, vanished, leaving no trace behind. The house was empty, nothing out of the ordinary, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something stayed there, waiting for us in that room, something we weren't supposed to find. After that night, I worked for like one more month, then I felt like I couldn't go back to work. The thing pushing me to the window, the whispers, and the sense that I had crossed a line into something dark and unknowable was too much for me, you know? I handed in my badge, left the force, and tried to move on with my life. But every now and then, I can't help but think of that night over and over again. And when I think about it, I always wonder if whatever the hell it was in that room is still out there, waiting. I've had a couple creepy moments in my police career, but one that will forever be different to me was a call I got when I worked the midnight shift. It was around 1:40 a.m. and got a call from dispatch that they had an open 911 call and could hear a woman whispering, "Help me," and then just silence. When my partner and I arrived at the apartment, the door was slightly opened and had a blood smear on it. The apartment was strangely quiet. It was like something out of a horror movie. The first thing we both noticed was the word, "Die," painted on the wall of the living room. It looked like it was black paint. As we made our way down the hallway, there was some blood on the wall to the bedroom, and blood covered the door handle. We opened the door and saw a woman laying on the bed, but it was unbelievably creepy. It was dead silent still in the apartment. We checked her out and found a faint pulse. Thankfully, the woman was still alive, but as we approached her on the bed, something about the scene didn't feel right. The silence, the darkness, and the eerie stillness of the room sent chills down our spines. My partner called for an ambulance, and I kept my eyes on the woman, trying to figure out what had happened. Her skin was pale, like really pale, almost ghostly, and her breathing was shallow, barely perceptible. Just as I was about to ask my partner something, I heard it, a faint, almost imperceptible whisper coming from the corner of the room, barely audible but clear enough to send me the shivers. "Help me," it whispered again, but this time, the voice sounded really weird, almost inhuman. I shone my flashlight into the corner of the room where the voice had come from, but of course, there was nothing. My partner heard it too, and we exchanged a look of confusion and unease. We both knew there was no one else in the room, yet the voice persisted. "What the fuck was that, man?" my partner said. Suddenly, the woman on the bed started coughing. She tried to speak, but only managed to choke out a few words. "He's still here," she gasped before literally lose consciousness again. My heart raced as we scanned the room, looking for any sign of someone else. But no, the apartment was empty. My partner and I looked at each other, and then, out of nowhere, we heard a loud bang from the living room. We both rushed out of the bedroom, guns drawn, ready for anything. But when we got to the living room, nothing was out of place. The door was still closed, and the word "die" still smeared on the wall. But the atmosphere was thick with tension, like the air itself was pressing down on us. My partner suggested that we leave the apartment until backup arrived, because they were almost there, but I hesitated. I didn't want to leave the woman alone, even though every instinct was telling me to get out of there. But then there it was again, this time louder. "Help me!" the voice cried out, and it was clear that it was coming from behind the couch. I motioned for my partner to check the hallway while I approached the couch. My hands were shaking as I reached for the edge, half expecting something to jump on me. I braced myself and quickly moved the couch away from the wall, only to find nothing again. Man, at this point we were just confused. What the hell was going on there? It felt like we were being toyed with, like something was playing a game or some. The woman on the bed let out a weak moan from the bedroom, drawing our attention back to her. I walked back to the bedroom cautiously, with the eerie feeling intensifying with every step. When I reached the doorway, I froze in place. The woman was no longer on the bed. Dude, when you think it just can't get worse, it gets way worse. We panicked, we scanned the room, trying to figure out where the fuck she could have gone in her weakened state. Then, without warning, the lights flickered and went out, plunging the room into complete darkness. In the pitch black, the only sound was our own breathing. I felt for my flashlight, but before I could turn it on, we heard a noise downstairs, like someone had broken glass or something. Again, we went downstairs and pointed our flashlights everywhere, but nothing. At this point, the backup just arrived and I felt safer. I left the house to let they check it out and said the woman was gone out of nowhere. I stand outside, and when they came back downstairs, they actually told me she was there, in the bed. I just said, "Dude, what?" I went upstairs with them, and there she was. Man, there was nothing so scary and disturbing like this in my life. Some things you just can't explain, I feel like. After that, we didn't waste any time. We grabbed the woman and rushed out of the apartment, leaving behind the oppressive darkness and the mysterious shit. The paramedics arrived and took over, getting the woman stabilized and onto a stretcher. My partner and I exchanged a glance, neither of us willing to voice what we had just experienced yet. We both knew for sure that whatever had happened in that place wasn't something we could easily explain. When I got back to the station, I filed my report as best as I could, leaving out the parts that made no logical sense, a lot of stuff. Some things are just beyond explanation. At least the woman was safe and survived.